it's also they need to show that kind of basketball because you look at all they show are dunks. And it's always the bigger the better, the monster dunks. Everybody wants monster dunks, and why not show some good fundamental basketball every once in a while? It's like this is what happens, and this is a point that Phil Mushnick has made who knows how many times, lots, but it holds true. Is that in baseball, you look at guys, they hit home runs, they stand at home plate. ESPN shows that, and that's kids see that, so they think, oh, I'm going to do what my favorite player does. The only guy who doesn't do it is Derek Jeter, but. How many other guys stand at home plate and they admire? And Robinson Cano hit a ball a couple like a week or so ago against the Yankees. Stood at home plate, and you could see him standing as the ball's going out, and the camera switches, and there's Ellsbury out in center field, and he crashes into the wall and makes a catch. I don't even think Cano was at first base yet. So that's a problem,
and that's why Robinson Cano's not on the Yankees anymore.
Well, that and the Yankees didn't want to pay him an insane contract like the Seattle Mariners did. Right. But we're getting off track here.
Anyway, we got to take a break. We'll be back with George Vecsey, author of 8 World Cups, right after this.
WHPC, Garden City, New York, the voice of Nassau Community College.
Listen. Join WHPC's Daily News Wrap-Up, weekdays at 4:30 p.m., bringing you a complete report of the day's news home and abroad, as well as sports, weather, and many other informative features.
We're Long Island's FM alternative.
Tune into Thunder Road for
the heart-stopping, band-stropping, arm-rocking, earth-shocking, booty-shaking, love-making, Viagra-taking, history-making, legendary.
Join me, Kim Tracy, for the music of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band on Thunder Road, Thursdays at 11 p.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. on 90.3 WHPC, and streaming at ncc.edu/WHPC.
If you love 80s music, listen up. From rock to pop to new wave and everything in between, it's Essential 80s. Friday mornings at 12 a.m. and Saturday mornings at 9. I'm Jamie Trovato, and I'm your host for 2 full hours of commercial-free 80s music that you know and love on 90.3 FM WHPC, the radio voice of Nassau Community College.
Thinking about advancing your career? Starting or finishing your college degree? Preparing for an upcoming employment opportunity? Apply for summer and fall classes at Nassau Community College. There are more than 80 degree programs of study, continuing education classes, and programs. For more information, go to ncc.edu/action or call 516-572-7346. This message is brought to you by 90.3 FM WHPC, the radio voice of Nassau Community College. We're back here on From the Pressbox. And we were just talking about the NBA Finals, and now let's jump to the World Cup. And yes, this is a soccer-friendly show for those who are saying, geez, why are you talking about soccer? No one cares about soccer.
Everybody cares about soccer.
We have a good guest, Tim.
Great guest.
A great guest.
Great, not good. Good is just good. This is great.
George Vecsey, long time and still writing for the New York Times. He has a new book out called 8 World Cups, published by Times Books. And George, welcome to From the Pressbox.
Well, I appreciate your interest. Nice to know we got a little soccer hubbub there.
Yeah, well,
like the rest of the country every 4 years.
Is it that way?
I hope it's a little more often than that, but it's these slow steps that Jurgen Klinsmann keeps talking about.
Well, and he's right. It's a quadrennial party. People are jumping into it now because they've identified, and people of a younger generation have figured out that it's a good time to go out and have fun, be with ethnics, find yourself a Brazil yellow jersey, and go party. In between, there are also great fans. When you see it on Long Island, you see it in Seattle with the big crowds out there for qualifying and league games. The sport is definitely catching on. Has it turned the corner? Well, there's lots of corners.
This is true.
That's true. Let's start off about the book, 8 World Cups.
My first question at any time I interview an author is, why did you write the book and why did you write it now?
I wrote it because I covered 8 World Cups in a row. There were only 2 of us. Graham Jones from the Los Angeles Times was the other one, and we were there for like 8 straight. So about 2 years ago, I was sitting around and I was saying, I really need to deprogram all these stories I tell people. I need to write it in a book. And I'd written some of them in the paper, some of them I just told. They were personal things, what it was like to be at the World Cups, what it was like to be in Barcelona in 1982, getting off a plane, never having seen World Cup level soccer in person in this beautiful city, and covering a sensational group involving Brazil, Argentina, and Italy in the ultimate group of mass extinction in a funky little stadium, and being unable to follow the ball because it was moving so fast. The old Cosmos or whatever you'd seen just didn't move the ball the way these guys did. They were gods.
Well, we grew up on the Cosmos. We played soccer. Tim and I both played soccer in Massapequa for the Massapequa Soccer Club. So we grew up on the Cosmos, and just jumping ahead, in the book you say at one point, the Cosmos aren't coming back. I was so sad, even though they're playing right across the street at Hofstra. I was sad to read that because you're right, they're not. And
well, those Cosmos are not.
Yeah,
let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I know that there was a 3-0 victory the other night over the Red Bulls, and that's terrific, and that's the way it should be. That's a lot of fun. Where second, alternate league is now beating the so-called Major League Soccer, and that's the fun of football.
No, that's the fun of the U.S. Open Cup as well. I mean, that's something like that.
I once covered an FA match in England where a bunch of tree surgeons and architects played at Arsenal on a Saturday morning in like the 4th round. Somehow they got to the 4th, and they had 1 or 2 professionals on the team. And it was great fun. They lost 3-1. They actually scored a goal in Highbury.
Once I heard at Arsenal, I was hoping they won.
Well, there you go.
I happen to be a Tottenham man myself, so that's why.
I always ask people, I've never been able to commit to a team, but on a national level, being at the World Cups, I know the first time I went to, in 1982, that Italy wasn't supposed to win. I was like ready for Socrates, the great Socrates, and Zico and Falcao to win the World Cup, and then Italy beat them and moved on and won the World. So ever since then, I have been a kind of closet Italy fan. When they play the Italy national anthem, when I see those Azzurri shirts, when I see Toto Scalacci or Roberto Baggio or whoever it is. This now it's Balotelli. When I see them, it's just somewhere in there. I'm not supposed to be neutral, but not quite.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of the game. I mean, you're saying all these names, the Baggio and Schilacci and those guys, and it takes me back to conversations I had with a buddy of mine, Johnny Trotta, and he was the guy who kind of introduced me to the Italian team and told me about the whole contropiede and all of that aspect of it, and that's we played soccer, like Rob said, growing up, but that's the kind of stuff that you're not exposed to if you're not part of that ethnic group. And that was a door that he opened to me back when I was, like 17, 18 years old. And it was almost like rediscovering the game.
Yeah, and I think, depending on, look, I'm in my mid-70s, so I knew nothing about club teams when I was playing high school soccer at Jamaica High School. I knew guys played. I knew there were national teams sort of vaguely, and it was fun to watch. We'd play German-American guys from Ridgewood and Maspeth playing for Grover Cleveland High School, and they were so good, and we were so scattered and not good. But this whole club thing, it took me a long time. Nowadays, look, the Internet has made a huge difference, and so has cable television, in people getting to enjoy soccer. I was in Foley's in Manhattan the other day for the first match, for the Brazil match, and to see the place packed. And so Sean, the guy who runs it, said, okay, these are Brazilians and honorary Brazilians, but you know what? Can I say this? A pretty girl in a yellow T-shirt, Brazilian, not Brazilian, the cheering, the fans, these guys who know the team. You don't know what ethnic group it is, but it's become, people take on the coloring, the social coloring of that team. They love that squad.
Absolutely. We're always talking about pretty girls on this show, George.
Well, I could get arrested. But the point being, you don't know. You see somebody in a yellow T-shirt cheering in a pub, and it's just the way it is. Brazil is the attractive team, but there are so many other fans. I mean, I know in St. Louis yesterday there were fans for Bosnia in an ethnic pocket in St. Louis, and that's really the way it is. I went for a breakfast 4 years ago with Slovenians on the first match of the World Cup. I was still home before I went over to South Africa, and it was great fun. Being people brought in their ethnic cakes and pies, and 7 o'clock in the morning in some sports bar. But that's the thing of it. I hung with Ghanaians. I have a whole chapter in there about 2010, and it starts with me I didn't get to go to the start of that World Cup. I had to go a little bit later. And to be on a triple header in New York, starting on the east side with my grandson, we went to the Slovenians, drove out to Brooklyn, to Flatbush, to hang with the Ghanaians when they won a match, and then we went across Brooklyn to Park Slope to an Australian pub to watch Germany just take Australia apart.
Yeah.
And 3 different ethnic groups on the same day. That's the beauty of soccer in a metropolitan area like New York.
Yeah, and it's the World Cup, but it's 3 distinct experiences. And I mean that again is the beauty of it. It's you're basically seeing the world through the game.
And the other night, well, this is not a soccer joint. They don't have a TV out front, and they're not looking for fans to come in and watch. But going to Mama's in Corona, the big Mets hangout on 104th Street, the great food there, and the private party in the back, and we're watching it. But to be with Italian people who care about, just when that squad comes on, when the anthem and the jerseys play, they get all excited and cheer for the winning goal.
George, in the book, you write about different players, but I think from the way you wrote about him, there's a certain likability about Maradona. Can you give us a story or two that involves you? Because he is a character, and you capture, I think, some of his character
idiosyncrasies.
Idiosyncrasies.
I think likability would be hard for me because the guy stiffed me on a phone call once. I tell this long story, complicated because somebody gave me his phone number back when I was going over to Napoli. I was supposed to write a magazine piece for him, and one of his sponsors slipped me his phone number and said, call him, see if you can arrange him. I speak a little bit of Italian, speak a little bit of Spanish. So I called up, started in Italian, got somebody in Napoli, and I'm trying to explain what I'm doing, and the guy switched to Spanish. Okay, I switched to my bad Spanish. Again, the guy moved back to Italian. I left my message, nothing happened. 3 or 4 weeks later, I get to Napoli, I'm at the match, I want to catch up with him. He comes out for a post-match press conference, and he starts to talk, and I hear this voice speaking Italian, and I said, that's the guy. That's the guy that was goofing with me on the phone.
Yeah.
But you know what? He was as elusive on the phone as he was to get an interview, as he was on the field. Just a genius at finding space, a genius at drawing people to him and throwing a great pass out there like he did against Brazil in that World Cup in 1990. A genius on the field, goofball everywhere else in life. At one point he played in one World Cup where he had 2 women, his girlfriend and his other girlfriend. He later married the one, but he had 2 women pregnant at the same time and is playing in the World Cup, carrying the hopes of his nation. I guess the man liked degree of difficulty.
That's for sure.
Or something.
Anybody with 2 girlfriends like that, both pregnant, that's a degree of difficulty.
Yeah, well, that's but that was Diego Armando and his spectacular, gross, obscene wedding back home in Buenos Aires during a season, as I recall. He decided to get married long after the fact. But that was him. I mean, a crazy man, paranoid. He had theories, and I just got to cover him from a distance, but also in person, being in Napoli and carrying him around to 3 different World Cups, covering him at 3 different World Cups. It was a lot of fun.
I have a question concerning just the World Cup itself. There seems to be a lot of politics involving the World Cup, not just where it's going to be played, but just everything. What division teams get placed in. Can you point out why this happens and maybe an example of little revenge against a team that was put in the wrong division?
Well, it's like anything else. There's you can call it politics or you can call it maneuvering, and in some ways maybe it is politics. In the United States gets different treatment or people react to it. It's nice to see Goliath playing a sport in which he does not excel. So I think the World Soccer Body and other nations have had the U.S. at somewhat of a disadvantage. Fun. Oh, look at those guys. They think they're number 14 in the world. We'll seed them in the bottom quadrant of teams that did qualify for the World Cup, ensuring that they'll have to play 2 European teams and another third world team. They don't get to play teams from their own region.